Good evening, morons. I am back again with another answering your comments video. This is going to be a shorter one, but it's going to, as you can tell by the title, address a pretty important one. First of all, I want to say shout out to Kibi, who gave me this cup when she went to Spain. I don't know what it means. En el Zarga Zona Zosa. I don't know what it means, but it's a pretty cool cup. And it says YouTube in a way, but I'm not sure if it's a parody. It's a Yo Es Tube. Yo Es Tube. I think it's from Spain, apparently. Cheers. I'm getting my driver's license tomorrow, renewed, but I gotta spit out this video for you guys. I'm wearing the Dump Trump t-shirt again, and that's an integral part of this particular video. But let's get to it. We're gonna be answering questions again, or comments. The first one comes from a guy named Danimra Stablecon, who says, "Really, even the J-vloggers are jumping on a free app just to get more views? I thought Victor was quite an integral person who doesn't give into this kind of fad." Again, I mentioned this in the last video. I thought that was kind of a let me have fun. What's the big deal? I think, Damira, you got to chill out, man. You're like a party pooper, man. I don't give in to, you know what? I do hold off on things sometimes. When that guy, the Vietnamese Australian guy, did the video about Asians being all losers, I knew that was a troll, so I ignored it for quite a long time, quite a few days. And made the response at my own pace, and it wasn't really to his video, but to the bullshit theory that all white people in Japan, anyone who comes to Japan, is a loser. The other example is the what's her name? Venus, the girl who looked like a doll. What's her name? I forgot her name already. I don't really care. Anyway, like, people have been bugging me for literally months to make a video about that. And I just, whatever. I could have jumped on it months ago and gotten more views. So, of course, you guys are stupid if you criticize someone for wanting to get views. Of course, we want to get views. We make these videos. And even if I were able to make a video that I didn't really care much about it, but got me a lot of views and made some money, I would be fine with that, because you guys know I put a lot of time into making videos that I know are never going to get views, but I think are important or interesting for me to put out. So yeah, so take your righteous bullshit and shove it up your ass, okay? With all due respect. I mean, I do appreciate your comments, but dude, relax a little bit. Anyway, quite a few people defended me here, as you can see in the comments, so I do thank you. I do thank you for that. So anyway, let's go on. Next one. Here's a very interesting one. Victor, do you consider yourself to be an expat? There's been a lot of discussion on what an expat is. Some people, yeah, actually that came from that, actually the Vietnamese Australian guy. I think he mentioned that only white people are considered expats, which I don't think is true at all. I think anyone who comes, I think it's your interpretation, but it's very simple. To me, and this is debatable, you can actually look it up, people debate this, but to me, an expat is someone who, whoops, I lost this, who comes to a country with the intention of staying there temporarily and just making some money there, and then going back to their country eventually. An immigrant is a person who moves to a country because they want a better life for themselves, and that's their intention, and that's why they have moved to that country. Now, I never moved to Japan. I never came to Japan with the purpose of living in Japan. I was going to stay here 1 year, and I fell in love, and the bitch broke my heart, but I stayed anyway. So, I'm drinking Jim Beam, by the way, because I think a Japanese company bought it. I think Suntory bought this, so thanks to that, who bought this? It's much cheaper now. I think it's only like $10 a bottle, and it's good. It tastes good. I prefer the Knob Creek, but let's get back on topic. Yeah, so I consider myself an expat, I guess, but I never really put much thought into it. I don't need the label, some of you guys, you have to label something, What the fuck do you have to label anything? I'm just a guy who lives in Japan. I consider myself an American. If I were pushed to it, yeah, I guess I'm an expat. I mean, I don't see it's a weird thing, because I don't see myself ever going back to America. But I don't consider myself an immigrant. Like, I have no intention of becoming Japanese. I think immigrants generally want to become citizens of their countries. The only way I would do that is if I thought it would help my son in the future somehow. But I can't see how it would, unless he were going to be like the next prime minister, and then it looked bad, like, oh, he can't be prime minister, his dad's still an American or some bullshit. Then maybe, maybe then. But what else? Again, I don't really care about stuff like this. I had a decent job at a publishing company in the States before I came over. And I actually was gonna when I got married, I was gonna go back, and I had a job lined up at a high school, decent salary and all that, and I didn't. I decided not to. I decided, I like staying in Japan. I want to stay in Japan, so we ended up staying in Japan. So cheers. But oh yeah, and Emosh73 says, let me ask you this: have you ever seen a Jamaican, Syrian, African, Colombian, Mexican refer to themselves as expats? Well, yes. Well, first of all, it's an English expression. It's an American expression, American and British expression. So they wouldn't probably use that. But yeah, they are expat. And if you're for example, anyone, if you're a Mexican American, you would use that. But if you're a Black American, you would use that. African American, you would use that. If you're, like I said, if you're an immigrant, you're an immigrant. But there's nothing wrong with it. So why do you have this need to label something? You want to make everything racist? I was just watching some really interesting interviews of Morgan Freeman, saying some people make way too much out of race. It's not why do you want to make everything about race? It's just a guy who lives in another country temporarily. Maybe you want to call him an expat, fine. You want to call him an immigrant, fine. It doesn't really change anything, does it? It doesn't change a fucking thing for you to say someone's an expat or an immigrant. He's living in another country, he's getting a job, he's getting a salary. What does it matter? Okay. Here's another comment by Lee Walistra. Thankfully, I've only been groped once during my 5 years of living in Tokyo. This comes from the How Not to Get Groped video that we did. That video, by the way, which is a pretty decent video, was basically an explanation of the Japanese government's guidelines on how to not get groped. Which a lot of people criticize that video. They think that we're victim blaming. I'm like, dude, we're just explaining something that we read. Okay, we're not even taking sides. Okay. Ideally, if I see someone groped, I'd attempt to capture them and take them to the police in a very painful way. But anyway, let's go back to this. She says, or I'm assuming it's a woman. Thankfully, I've only been groped once during my 5 years of living in Tokyo and Yokohama, and that was actually not on the train, but just outside of Akihabara Station, on a very busy weekday afternoon with hordes of salarymen swarming around the station as usual. There were so many people it was quite hard to navigate out of the station like it normally is, and suddenly I feel someone just sliding their fingers across the inside of my underarm. And it was definitely intentional, and I immediately turned around to yell at the man, only to realize it was completely impossible to know who it was. The place was so crowded, people were brushing and pushing against each other all the time, and there were like 10 men just centimeters from me, even as I immediately turned around. That's when I probably understood how creepy the perverts here are. He must have done that and probably other things so many times to so many other people. So it to just happen that smoothly, and for him to being so completely undetectable. Yeah, I suppose it, the opportunity does make some perverts brazen. I'll agree with you there. There's nothing for me to agree or disagree with. I'm just reading her comment. I thought it was interesting though. Anyway, she says, and somehow I found it extremely unsettling that the place of my body he had wanted to touch so badly was the soft skin of my inner wrist. Instead of going for my butt, my inner wrist, she said underarm. Instead of going for my butt or trying to push against my boobs or something. Several of my friends have had much worse experiences though, so I'm glad I haven't had anything really bad happen to me. So, interestingly enough, I was teaching a video about the TSA and baggage theft in America. I've had stuff stolen out of my baggage too, and my Japanese students, one of them is quite wealthy, she's like, she couldn't imagine why anyone would want to steal the things in her bag. They don't seem to be valuable to her. But well, anyway, the long story short, this, I think ABC News or something, conducted an experiment And 90% of the time, everything was fine. Like they purposely forgot their iPads at airports, and 90% of the time, the iPads came back. Only 10% of the time was something lost or stolen. And that's basically probably what it's like in Japan, maybe even less. But when it happens, it's kind of shocking. And the thing is, there's something confusing about crime that I've noticed, and this is my theory. So I've never heard anyone talk about this, and this might explain the Trump support a little bit. Trump, is talking about how the crime in America is going to stop immediately when he becomes office, which is just a ridiculous promise. You just can't just stop crime because he becomes president. It's not like all the criminals are like, oh my God, Trump's president, we better stop being bad, But here's my theory on why crime seems to be worse than it is, even though it's actually gone down every year for the last, 20 years or something. So crime apparently is at an all-time low in America right now, except for a few certain spots in certain cities. And of course, people cherry pick those spots to bring up in debates. But here's my theory, okay? Let's say you have 100 people. Now, I haven't really, I'm going to do this off the top of my head. I'm sure I could make a better argument mathematically. But let's say you have 100 people, okay? And you have 10 years, right? And the first year, 10 people get mugged. 10 of your friends get mugged, right? You have 100 friends, okay? The next year, 9 people get mugged, okay? The third year, 8 people get mugged. The fourth year, 7 people get mugged, and so on and so forth, until whatever number, how many 10 years have passed, and the last year one person gets mugged. So, but by the time one person gets mugged, all these other people have mugged, and you can count it up. We'd have to count it up. This is embarrassing. I guess I could do it, but let me see. So let's say you got 10 people get mugged, 9 people get mugged, 8 people get mugged, 7 people get mugged, 6 people. Okay. So at the end of 10 years or so, you have about, I probably did it wrong, but 52 people. So half of everyone has been mugged at the end of 10 years. So you think, wow, crime's terrible. But actually, crime's gone down. But you just know people who, and of course in that number, there'll be people who have been mugged twice or even 3 times. So it only exacerbates your feeling. And remember, that anecdotal evidence is much more powerful than statistical evidence. So if your friend got raped, or let's not say rape, but let's say your friend got molested on a subway in Japan, you're going to remember that much more than the maybe 20 friends that that went to Japan that didn't get mugged, or didn't get didn't get molested, right? I mean, how many times have you taken an airplane and you didn't have your luggage stolen? Right? I've taken, I don't know how many airplane rides, but 100, and I've had my stuff stolen maybe twice, right? But whenever I take the airplane now, I'm like, oh no, I hope they don't steal my shit out of my luggage again, because it happened once. Even though it's happened like 5% of the time. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, it does happen, and be careful. When I worked in publishing, I worked for publicity, and one of the first books I worked on was, oh my God, it's a book called Subway, and I can't remember the writer anymore. It was a photographer, but God, what was his name? Subway, Ethan, Subway. What the hell is his name? Anyway, if you can look it up if you want. I'm not going to waste your time looking for it now. But it was published. It must have been published about 25 years ago, maybe by Aperture Books, and I remember meeting the author, and he told me, well, the photographer. He told me, I said, in those days, New York City was a mess. It must have been 27 years ago. And he said that he never had a problem because he boarded the subway. He would take the subway and take photographs of people on the subway. And that was his photo, this is the photo coffee book that he made. And he said, I never had a problem because my attitude was that of a predator. I was hunting people, and my camera was my weapon. And I always kept that attitude. And he said, and I think this burped. Sorry. He says I think it translated into body language. So no one fucked with me, he said, except on the last day when he was finally done. When he took his last picture and he said, I'm done. And he was going home, That's the day he got mugged. And of course, he's a cameraman and a photographer. And in those days, this is pre-digital stuff. So 27 years ago, that camera equipment was. I suppose it's. I want to say it probably was much more expensive than it is now, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But anyways, he lost a lot of equipment. He got fucked, and it was because he said he let his guard down. So. Don't let your guard down. Be an aggressive person. And if you are a woman watching this and you fear for your safety, and someone is watching you, of course, it's almost impossible to stop someone from just groping you in a crowded train like that. But if you feel that you're at risk, and someone is watching you, and you feel like you're being stalked or something, pick your nose. Apparently, that is the best defense. Of course, do not take my advice alone. Research it a little bit, but look it up, and someone else look it up and tell me if I'm wrong. But from what I hear, picking your nose in public makes you a pretty suddenly decreases your attractiveness as a target. Let's get to the next comment. Words for thought. This is an interesting one. He says this guy Galvin Kalamer says, I am against the whole idea of low birth rates being an issue. People saying our old will outnumber the young in the future being an issue, since there will not be money flow of taxes coming into. So let me just explain this. Japan is. I know a little bit about this. By the year, is it 2020? Japan's population will have 2025 maybe. Anyway, very soon, Japan's population will drop approximately 20 million people, unless two things happen. One of them is Japan increases its birth rate from what it is now, which is 1.2 children per couple, to 2.6 children per couple, and increases immigration to, I think, 200,000 people a year. I think last year, if I remember right, and I could be wrong on this, I didn't research this, I just my memory, I think Japan lost like 200,000 or 300,000 people last year, and just people died of old age, So Japan is shrinking. It is shrinking, and they've got to do something about it. And they're panicking because they're like, oh my God, we're not gonna be able to pay for Social Security in the future. But people point out all the time that after World War II, the population of Japan was 50 million. And that's when Japan, after World War II is when Japan blew up, right? Economically grew tremendously. And one of the reasons that I was I was instilled by my father to respect Japan, because even though they lost World War II, they won the world, economically speaking. And even there's even a joke that says, what would happen if Japan lost another World War II? They would take over the world, because after they lost one World War. Oh no, they lost World War III, sorry. After they lost World War II, they became economically the strongest country in the world. So about 27 years ago, that was a joke. Right after the bubble, people were joking that, if Japan ever got into another world war and lost again, they would just take over the world. Okay, let's go back to this comment. So words for thought, I'm against the whole idea of low birth rates being an issue. People saying our old will outnumber the young in the future being an issue, since there will not be a money flow of taxes coming in to pay for the retired. That's the argument people make. Especially in overpopulated countries such as the USA, China, many European nations, etc., or extremely high unemployment and underemployment. If the populace is getting food stamps, energy assistance, and all other kinds of welfare. So, sorry, this is kind of long, and I remember it and being impressed by it. But basically he's saying that if the government were to cut off all... Okay, if the population gets smaller, then the government is going to spend less on welfare. So it can spend the extra money on... and there will be less unemployment, right? Because there'll be a smaller population. And if everyone on the person has only one kid, then we'll keep the population the same, right? Which is actually not what's happening in Japan, because if a couple's having 1.2 kids, that's not enough. Yeah, that's less than one kid. That's like 0.8 kids, so 0.6 kids per person. So he says the population needs to die off naturally by having lower birth rates, or we need some more unfortunate circumstances to occur, like another major World War II. So basically, he says it's a stupid argument. The only time we should discuss needing a raise in the birth rate is when there is zero unemployment and zero welfare. Yes, so he's basically saying because there's a lot of unemployment, it means we have too many people, and because there's a lot of welfare, it means we have too many people. We can't take care of what we have right now. He also says that more population means more non-renewable resources being burned up quicker, which means more pollution, less space to live in unless we start ripping down golf courses. And digging up cemeteries. But actually in Japan they're always building new apartment buildings all the time. They just built one right across the street, so I don't know about that. People talk about the wealth is in the top 1%. Well, if 99% wasn't such a huge number, the remaining money would split better. Have more people, each person's cut is less. Yes, so it's interesting. I have to look into that, but I don't know why nobody makes that argument. Let's go to the next here. Here's a comment that surprised me, but and it's on the losers thing. It's kind of it doesn't really have anything to do with my video about white men in Asia, but real time who makes very interesting and good comments. He says there's terrible bullying in Japan at much higher levels than in the U.S. at all levels of society, from school to the work environment. I don't know about that. Is that true? I don't know. There's a lot of passive aggressiveness, passive violence. I don't know what passive violence can be. Passive aggressiveness I understand, but not passive violence. There's a big social price to pay for mistakes that in the US just doesn't happen. In Japan, you could experience social death for breaking certain rules. I don't believe that's true. There's no such thing as social death unless you agree to it. It is true that certain things are frowned upon and there are taboos and stuff, but here's the thing, there's a lot of people who live outside of those taboos. There's a woman down the street who I actually met my first week living in this neighborhood, like I don't know, 8 years ago or something. She was outside sitting on a bench nursing her baby, and I guess the baby was crying, so she didn't want to go outside, or maybe she was just walking the baby to make him calm down. I know my son likes to be outside. And another kid's huge, and she's and we're not friends, but we talk. I see her in the neighborhood. We're walking, talking, whatever. We'll chat a little bit. And I noticed I was riding my bike home the other day, and I came across her, and she was riding her bicycle home. And I noticed she had all these tattoos on her legs, and I was like, "Whoa! I didn't know you had tattoos." I was like, "Pretty cool." She's like, "Oh, these are common. Everyone's got them, So in her world, everyone's got tattoos. But as all of you know, tattoos are shunned in Japan, right? But this woman, who's a very normal, pleasant woman and just a mom, as far as I could tell, and until I had seen the tattoos, I never would have guessed she had tattoos. And there you go, I was wrong, and you learn new things every day. So all those things that you hear obviously can't be true, because there's a lot of people who live outside of that, of that accepted society, and they do fine. They have their own societies. A lot of the guys, when I went to I took part in the Naked Festival, a lot of those guys that I took part, that I hung out with during that time, have tattoos, tons of them, and they're all nice guys, family guys. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, in Japan, it really is difficult to remake yourself if you fail. There's no such thing as going back to college again. And I'm glad you spelled college right. For so many people don't spell college right. It pisses me off. I know a woman who went back to college and became a teacher, a high school teacher, at the age of 42. So it's not true. There is such a thing. I know a professional photographer who became a real estate agent and made a mint. So you said there's no such thing as redefining yourself professionally. Not true. There are so many bad things that the Japanese have to experience in society that I could fill the whole screen. Well, those things do exist, but I think if you're a survivor, you're a survivor. Then this guy says the Japanese are not a happy bunch at all. It is my opinion. I live here and there. There are very many unhappy people in Japan. I will agree with you there, but I can't. I don't know. You'd have to give a happy test. I would say you're probably right in that the Japanese probably don't do well on the happy tests. But there are plenty of happy people here. So, okay. The next video is by, the next comment is by J Theme, who really did not like this t-shirt, and he took it so, you know, he's basically what Clint Eastwood recently referred to as a big pussy. Sorry, Jay. What is the point of introducing anti-Trump comments and now a shit Trump t-shirt? These videos have rarely ever taken any kind of political side. It's not a shit Trump t-shirt. It's a unchi Trump t-shirt. And unchi, or unko, is very cute. Trump is a massively popular candidate. I don't care. So is Justin Bieber. So is, what's the girl's name? The hot girl. Britney Spears. She's hot. Have you seen her? Instagram's amazing. I get why some people might vote for him, or you prefer liberals or whatever it is, but why would you really just shit on half your audience? This is called shitting on half my audience. If you think I'm shitting on you because I wore this funny t-shirt, what I think is humorous, then you're a pussy and you should not be watching my channel. And I could give a shit. I seriously could give a shit. I'm not here for the thin-skinned, okay? So if you're a thin-skinned pussy, then fuck off, right? And I'm sorry to see you go, but grow some balls, because life is much more fun when you're not a thin-skinned pussy. Really, don't take things so seriously. Is politics your fucking religion? I don't give a shit. If, like I said in the last video, I hope Trump doesn't win. I think he's an idiot. But if he wins, I will hope the best. Hope for the best. Okay. And I will be very interested in see what happens. And I'll probably be much more interested in seeing what Trump does than Clinton does. But I think Clinton knows what she's doing. And part of that means being a dishonest politician, because that's what politicians are. Pretty much all of them across the board are dishonest and are sellouts and have to, oh man, I can never remember this expression. I want to say they have to compromise their beliefs if they want to be successful politicians. That's part of what being a politician is. Trump, I think, is an idiot. Okay. Am I shitting on him? No. Am I shitting on my audience? No. We're disagreeing. Just because I disagree with you. Oh, you're Christian. I'm Muslim. Oh, I'm shitting on your God. No, it's just a different opinion. Fucking grow some balls. Then he says, why would you sit on half your audience? Maybe more than half. If half my audience, you know what, guys, here's a question for you in the comments. Okay. Do you think I shit on you because I have different political views? Number one. And number, what's the other question? Oh yeah. Who are you going to vote for? If you could vote, and I don't care if you're not American, who would you vote for? Clinton or Trump or the other what's it called? Libertarian guy. I forgot his name. Johnson, maybe. I don't know why you think your viewers are what, left-wing anti-conservatives. I don't think they are anything. I don't give a shit what you are politically. I make my videos and I'm just presenting myself. You know, you can agree or not agree. Because I mean, it's odd being that your channel is really an apolitical and more fun sort of theme. Well, J Theme, I'm sorry, or Thame, or whatever the hell however you pronounce your name, you're a pussy. Okay? And someone should tell you that. So someone find J Theme, and he left a comment here. Go find him and tell him he's a pussy, okay? Seriously. He's on the all-white guy. You're just silly. Grow some balls. Next comment. This was one of my favorite videos to make. The Only Love Can Make It Rain video. And Hero Danger 89 says, the smell of rain on grass is so nice. And yes, I am someone who likes the rain just as much as you do, Victor. I am a Christian myself. And I knew ages ago your stance on religion and such, and I know it just doesn't seem to be for everyone, and I have come to think over the last year or so that we are all hypocrites in one way or another, and I agree with you. And I use that to try and better myself through my beliefs and guidelines and such. Thanks for the upload, Victor. I know my comment probably doesn't make much sense, but it doesn't to me either. It's just how I feel. And I think that this is one of the best comments I've had. I have no problem with the fact that you're a Christian. And I would probably be a Christian too if I had belief, but I don't have belief. I don't have faith. I can't just pretend to have it. I can't just decide, oh, maybe there is a God. I better have some faith. You can't just decide it. It's not a decision. It's a feeling here. I don't have the feeling here. I do see and feel beauty every day. You guys don't understand. I mean, I ride my bike to school, and I see the fucking beautiful blue sky and the clouds and the buildings, and I'm like, fuck, life is beautiful. I see that all the time. Don't mistake me. I'm a perv too. I see a nice ass, and I'm like, whoa, life is beautiful. But, you know, putting the nice asses and beautiful legs I see on the way to work on when I'm riding my bicycle aside, just the beautiful. I mean, check out my Instagram. I love sceneries. I love just the fields and the sky and the clouds. It's gorgeous. But I don't think God made it. But I do feel there is a beauty that is beyond humanity. Beyond, I don't know. There's a beauty in life. That's my religion. I don't know. But it's not a Christian God. It's not a guy with a beard and a staff and, you know, throwing lightning bolts down at people. So I just don't have the faith. I'm sorry. You know, I'm not really sorry, but I'm sorry. I get, you know, no, I'm not sorry, but you know what I'm saying. It would be nice if I weren't such a stickler about that, but I just don't have it. So, and it bugs me when I see people who are Christian being dicks to other people, other human beings. If you said, look, I'm not a Christian, I'm just a dick, so I'm gonna be a dick, and I'll be like, okay, well, all right. Be you. But when you say you're a certain religion and then you act hypocritical in my eyes because you're not following your own rules that you claim to believe, then I just think you're full of shit and you're a hypocrite. But everyone's a hypocrite. Next comment. I hope I don't insult you, but you strike me as being, I think he meant to say as, and Kiki Lang has not subscribed to me, and I love Kiki Lang. I don't even know if you're male or female. You're a gorilla, right? Dicks out for Harambe. But that he or she made a point of telling me that they didn't. I think it might even be a lesbian. I don't know. He or she made a point of, I'm a lesbian, of telling me that they're not subscribed to me, but they comment and watch almost all my videos. So I'm very, very appreciative. I don't give a shit about your subscription. Of course, it's good for my numbers. It looks like I'm popular. A lot of people subscribe to me, so. And if you want to, you know, keep up with me, subscribe, I guess, you know, whatever. But I could really give a shit. Especially when people say, I'm unsubscribing. Oh, like what's his name? This guy. J-Theme. I'm unsubscribing. Oh, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. You and your pussy, thin-skinned, political bullshit. Kiki Lang is not subscribed to me, and I'm quite happy to always see interesting comments from this person. I appreciate that. I don't care. So, thanks for that. Anyway, Kiki Lang, she says, I hope I don't insult you, but you strike me as being very American. I'm not insulted whatsoever. I feel like I should be insulted now that you mentioned it. Sounds like the guy is jealous. Washboard ab is not a replacement for what's below. Oh, okay. You must be a woman. No, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, a gay guy? Maybe you're gay. I don't know. But anyway. So this was a comment on the white men in Asia are all losers. So I mentioned that in that the guy who made that video obviously edited the fuck out of it, and in such a way, like the opening like split second is like his abs, right? So okay, you got abs, buddy, but big deal. Anyway, so he says, I remember Chris Rock whining that he was the best comedian in the world and he had to live next to a Jewish dentist. A dentist or a garbage man for that matter is infinitely more important than any comedian. Isn't Japan a little larger than California? Yeah, it's about the same. I think Japan is the same size as California and maybe New Zealand. But much bigger population. Okay, next comment. Ibrahim Kaya. How do you find the word loser? A person who can manage a job, who managed to work in Japan as a foreigner is hardly a loser. I mean, he shows the jobless person who rants about these white people that he can find a job in another country. For me, a loser is someone who has no work, perspective, or respect for other people. I agree, pretty much. How can you say someone is a loser because of his interests? Someone who just respects other people's opinions, goals, and decisions is a loser. Okay. Yeah, pretty much. I pretty much agree. As long as you're, not hurting anyone, you're not being a dick, you're not a loser. That's what I was saying. And I don't know why I screen captured this comment. Maybe just to say, hey, thanks, man. I agree. Last comment, and this is the last for this month. I'll try to make one of these videos a month from now on, at the end of the month. Andy Hoove says, and this was left on, again, the White Men in Asia Are All Losers video. Life isn't a game you either win or lose. Some people will argue otherwise, but more time than not, their trophy is a fancier box in... I like this comment, right? So basically he's saying, you know, life's not a game, and the people who argue that, you know, all they get is they get a nicer coffin when they die, and it's a fancier box in which they can decompose, and a bigger, fancier rock, you know, reminding people where they are decomposing. And that will one day be eroded down by wind water to mere dust, which itself will inevitably be consumed by our dying sun. In other words, just try to enjoy your brief moment of existence. Annie Hall, Woody Allen's joke in there is that the guy goes to a doctor and says, "Doctor, you got to help me. My brother thinks he's a chicken, and I don't know what to do." And he says, I don't remember the whole joke exactly, but the point was, well, we don't want to cure him exactly. Well, why not? Well, because we need the eggs. I don't know why this comment reminds me of that, but oh yes, life is meaningless, and maybe there is no God, and maybe we're all going to die, and the sun will consume everything. But you know, while you're here, do your best and try to have fun and enjoy those eggs. I guess that's what they were saying. I'm pretty sure I screwed that up, but you know, my misinterpretation I think is good enough, right? Anyway, life is short, maybe meaningless, but I think I really do believe we should all do our best to enjoy it. And if you are watching this video and you believe in God and you believe in Trump or whatever, that's fine. Don't take my lack of faith and my lack of trust in Trump personally. It's just an opinion, right? In the end, everything will work out. The most important thing is that you guys try to find happiness in your life, and not trying to concentrate on the things that divide us, the minor things. I mean, do you want to hate on me just because I think Trump's a dick? You know, who are you? I mean, if you're Trump, I would understand if you were Trump. But you know what? I bet you Trump doesn't even give a shit. So, so whatever. Anyway, I hope you all guys have happiness in your life, whatever it is. And you know, I really doubt I inspire many people, but you know, when you're outside and you're walking, look for the beauty out there, because there really is so much beauty in the world. I can't believe it. You know, it's just amazing to me. I really wish there were a God I could say, dude, good job, because the world is fucking beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Cheers. Thanks for watching. This was even longer than the last video, and I never thought it would be. What the hell is that? Oh God. I almost swallowed that. That's the end of the watch band broke, and I put the metal in there. I forgot all about it. Oh shit. All right, you almost watched me die on camera. Congrats. Oh, if you got to the end of the video, tell me what you think is beautiful. That's the question. Thanks for watching. Talk to you guys soon.